In a world overflowing with information, where our minds race faster than our feet ever could, there's a strange paradox that defines our age. The more connected we become, the more disconnected we feel. From morning to midnight, our phones vibrate with headlines, emails, pings, and updates, each demanding attention, each pushing our brains into hyperdrive. And in this chaos, a silent predator stalks us all: anxiety. Not the kind born out of real danger, but the kind we manufacture in our own minds: worry, fear, rumination, dread. We are overthinking ourselves into exhaustion. Yet somewhere in this storm, if we stop long enough to listen, there's a whisper from the past. A whisper from men who lived without electricity or social media but still wrestled with the same internal demons we do today. Men like Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, and Seneca. Stoic philosophers who didn't just study peace, they practiced it. And their wisdom might be the one antidote we've ignored in our race toward technological nirvana. Imagine waking up in ancient Rome. The empire is vast, powerful, and brutal. You're not in control of the world, not even of your own life in many cases. Yet, Marcus Aurelius, emperor of that very empire, found stillness in his thoughts. How? Because he understood a truth that we seem to have forgotten: you cannot control the chaos outside, but you can control your reaction to it. You have power over your mind, he wrote. Not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Compare that to us today. The average person checks their phone over 90 times a day. Social media algorithms are designed to hijack attention, not nourish it. Our brains are never at rest. We lie in bed at night replaying awkward conversations, predicting disasters, scrolling mindlessly to avoid our own thoughts. The modern brain is like a computer with too many tabs open. And the result? Chronic anxiety. But what if we closed some of those tabs, not just digitally, but mentally? What if we learned to sit with discomfort without trying to fix it instantly? What if we practice stillness, not as a luxury, but as a survival skill? The Stoics weren't emotionless statues, despite what pop culture might suggest. They felt pain, grief, love, and anger. But they didn't let these emotions drive the chariot. Instead, they observed them like clouds passing in the sky. Epictetus, a slave who became a philosopher, taught that it's not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. You lose your job, not the end of the world. Someone insults you, not a mortal wound. It's how we interpret these things that shapes our experience, not the things themselves. Now hold that thought and fast forward to today's therapy offices, mindfulness apps, and cognitive behavioral techniques. What do they all emphasize? Awareness of thought. Distance from automatic reactions. Reframing perception. Sound familiar? Because it is. Modern psychology is finally catching up with ancient wisdom. Stillness, the Stoics believed, is not passive. It's not doing nothing. It's the art of choosing your response instead of reacting blindly. It's the space between stimulus and response where freedom lives. In that space, anxiety loses its grip. In that space, the overthinking brain begins to quiet. But let's be honest, choosing stillness in today's world feels like swimming upstream. Everything is built to distract us. Advertisements are tailored to our insecurities. News cycles run on outrage. Productivity culture tells us we're lazy if we rest. No wonder our nervous systems are fried. And here's where Stoicism becomes not just helpful, but revolutionary. The Stoics practice something called Premeditatio Malorum, visualizing worst-case scenarios. It wasn't pessimism. It was preparation. By contemplating loss, illness, failure, they immunized themselves against fear. Not because they enjoyed suffering, but because they knew it was inevitable. And by facing it mentally first, they could meet it with courage when it came. Imagine applying that today. You're afraid of being rejected, so you avoid relationships. But what if you visualized the pain of rejection and survived it in your mind? You'd realize it's uncomfortable, but not lethal. You'd stop being paralyzed by the what ifs. Because the Stoics remind us, you've survived 100% of your worst days so far. Your fear is a liar. Another Stoic gem comes from Seneca: we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Think of how much anxiety comes not from real events, but from the stories we tell ourselves. I'll fail the exam. They're judging me. This meeting will go terribly. And even when reality proves kinder, we've already exhausted ourselves with dread. That's the overthinking brain, dramatizing life into a horror film. Stoicism tells us to stop being the director of this mental theater and just observe the facts. Of course, that's easier said than done. Especially when you've been conditioned to equate stillness with laziness and anxiety with productivity. But anxiety isn't a badge of honor. It's a warning light. Your brain is overheating. Your soul is asking for silence. Not the silence of isolation, but the silence of presence. Stoics found presence in daily practices. Marcus Aurelius journaled. Seneca wrote letters. Epictetus taught his students to reflect every night. What did I do well? What could I improve? These weren't random habits. They were rituals of mental hygiene. And we need them more than ever. Because in a culture obsessed with doing, we've forgotten how to be. We chase stimulation, validation, acceleration. But peace doesn't live in speed. It lives in slowness. In solitude. In reflection. In the breath between thoughts. There's a reason the Stoics prized virtue above all. Not fame, not wealth, not success. Virtue, living in accordance with reason and nature. In modern terms, it means being your best self regardless of circumstances. That includes mastering your mind instead of letting it master you. You see, anxiety thrives on avoidance. We overthink because we don't want to feel. We analyze to escape uncertainty. But Stoicism invites us into the fire. Not to burn, but to be tempered. To develop what they call ataraxia, tranquility. Not because life is easy, but because you've trained your mind to remain unshaken. And that training isn't abstract. It starts small. In how you respond to traffic. In how you handle criticism. In whether you check your phone first thing or take a moment to breathe. Every choice is a chance to reclaim your mind. To remind it that it is your servant, not your master. Think of your mind like a wild horse. Left untrained, it runs wherever it wants, often into fear and fantasy. But with discipline, with patience, with practice, it becomes a powerful ally. That's what Stoicism teaches. Not how to escape life, but how to ride through it with grace. We are the most overstimulated generation in human history, and yet the most spiritually starved. Our bodies are fast, but our souls are limping. We've mastered multitasking but forgotten how to meditate. We've built skyscrapers but lost sight of inner peace. So what's the answer? A return. Not to the past, but to the principles that survived it. A return to wisdom, to reflection, to stillness. To philosophies that outlived empires because they spoke to something eternal in us. If Marcus Aurelius could find peace while commanding armies, if Epictetus could find freedom as a slave, if Seneca could embrace calm while facing death, what excuse do we have? Stillness is not a retreat. It is resistance. Against the noise. Against the panic. Against the overthinking brain that tells us we must worry to survive. Let's be clear, the Stoicism won't erase anxiety. It will teach you to face it. To observe it without being owned by it. To walk through it with dignity. And over time, that practice rewires the mind. Not in theory, but in lived experience. So the next time your thoughts spiral into worry, pause. Take a breath. Ask, what is truly within my control right now? What am I adding to this moment with my assumptions? What would a Stoic do? That one pause is where the battle is won. Not through force, but through awareness. Not by escaping your mind, but by disciplining it. Not by numbing your fear, but by standing beside it without flinching. Because the stillness the Stoics spoke of isn't far away. It's already inside you. Beneath the static. Beneath the noise. It's the part of you that watches calmly while the storm rages. And maybe, just maybe, modern anxiety isn't a flaw, but a signal. A nudge from the soul saying, you strayed too far from what matters. It's not asking for medication. It's asking for meaning. Not for distraction, but for depth. And in that cry for help lies an invitation. Not to run, but to return. To wisdom. To simplicity. To stillness. So, if your brain feels like it's running a marathon in every direction, if your thoughts feel like a cage, remember this: you are not your mind. You are the master of it. And when you embrace that truth, not just intellectually, but daily, you become untouchable. Not because life gets easier, but because you've become stronger, quieter, wiser. Like a rock unmoved by the crashing waves, you learn to stand. Calm. Steady. Still. Because in the end, ancient stillness may be the only medicine that can heal the noise of our modern age.